to change how they feel, to kind of change their behavior of saving their money versus spending it all at once. Um, is that almost kind of how you were approaching it? Changing thoughts, changing feelings,
Yeah.
changing behaviors. Okay.
Yeah, I was trying to get her to see too that if she did budget and did realize like what she could get each week, that in the long run she'll probably be happier because each week she'll be getting something she wants to do rather than spending all of her money right on, let's say tomorrow she'd be spending all of her money for the whole month, whereas
Okay.
now in August she can spend it every week.
Okay. So also almost like some problem solving is going on, some like cause and
Yeah.
effect thinking. So we got a lot of working parts. So I guess with a lot of these handouts or a lot of these activities that we're talking about, they may seem really simple on the surface. Like we may just be giving you a worksheet with a couple lines on it, or maybe giving you a worksheet with a couple words on it, and it may look really simple on the surface. But when you apply it to your client's life, there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot going on. Like, you just talked about budgeting, and from that, we got changing how you think, to change how you feel, to change how you behave. We also got problem solving, looking to the future, cause and effect thinking. So it kind of goes where you take it, and it kind of goes where your client needs it to go. So I kind of urge you to, really be thoughtful in which of those handouts you choose. Think about what your client needs, think about their mental health, what would benefit their mental health symptoms, and really think about what would benefit them to work on in their life to improve their mental health and improve their functioning. I'm glad to hear that worked out for your client. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. Thank you, Rachel. Let's hear from maybe one other person. Either if it was something you struggled with, go ahead and share that, or if there was a success in achieving independence, feel free to share either way. Maybe one more person in the chat, or if you'd like to unmute and share. Oh, Cassie was quick on her typing. All right, Cassie. Oh, Cassie says, for my client, with achieving independence, we worked on social interactions and communication skills during group. Okay. They're used to stating their answers or yelling out instead of waiting to be called on. We worked on this during our session and did role playing during social hour at our facility. Instead of him yelling hello to everyone across the room, we established going up to those individuals to spark a conversation. Great. Thank you, Cassie.
You're
So again,
welcome.
Cassie, a follow-up. So what was it that was preventing them from waiting their turn, or what was it that was causing them to speak out impulsively before?
They are really sociable and they love greeting and meeting new people.
Mm-hmm.
And especially during group, it's kind of hard because there's everyone sitting, especially like in the dining room, trying to conversate and pay attention to what the therapist is talking about. So they feel that if they yell, it'll get their attention and instead of like actually waiting their turn. So that's kind of a struggle still, but we're still working on that, slowly progressing.
Okay. Is that maybe one of the only times, maybe during the week or during the day, that they see a lot of these people, or get a lot of social
Um,
interaction?
no, so they see them in the dining room during like breakfast, lunch, and dinner,
Oh,
and then they also do activities. We call it social hour, but it's really like coffee and hot chocolate.
okay.
So, and there's a lot of the staff that walks out into the dining room from the kitchen and they love to say hi, but they're sitting at a table and trying to greet them. But we've been trying to work on him going up to them instead of yelling across the room.
Okay. So something there's a lot going on.
Yeah, there's
Just
there's definitely a lot going
a
on.
lot to pay attention to. So good skill to learn.
Yes.
Taking turns, social skills to improve those relationships. So good skill to learn. Thank you for sharing, Cassie. All right,
You're
great
welcome.
work. Great work. Thank you guys for sharing. Appreciate that. We'll problem solve at the end, how to use what we're going to be talking about today. So save maybe some of your questions, comments for the end for our topic for today. So today we're going to be talking about skill building. So week 3 is about skill building. We have to tie it in to our Ohio Administrative Code. I'll try to condense this a little bit for you because it's a little complicated here on the screen. But how Ohio Administrative Code relates to you in skill building is that you are providing goal-directed support. This is why we have to have a treatment plan. with the intention to achieve an identified goal or objective as is written in their treatment plan. And it does provide for us to be working on developing and providing solution-focused interventions that are directed at improving their emotional and behavioral management, which are based on evidence-based psychotherapeutic treatments. And one of those evidence-based psychotherapeutic treatments that we're going to learn about today is ABA. So we're going to learn about a very specific evidence-based treatment today. You may have heard of it before. We're going to give you a nice overview of it today. Remembering, though, that it needs to be based on the client's mental health treatment needs. We always need to link back what we're doing with the client to their mental health needs. Why are we doing this? Why are we working on a client with building their skills, hopefully to help them live with equal opportunities, thriving on their own terms and conditions, kind of living their life the way they would like to live their life. So let's start at the beginning. As always, just a reminder, read assessments, read evaluations so that you're understanding the client diagnosis, what their symptoms are, again, what they need, what is their mental health need. So you have some information about their background so you can match the intervention to their symptoms. Again, that medical necessity is shown and there is medical necessity in what you are providing to the client. So let's get to work. Let's start working with our client. So I kind of mentioned it earlier, we're going to be learning about ABA, which stands for Applied Behavior Analysis. Now, we are not going to certify you today to become a behavior analyst. We are just going to give you one approach that you can learn that is based on ABA. So please do not walk around calling yourself a behavior analyst. That is not the intention for today. It's to give you a little peek into that world. It's a little overview of what that may look like. You may be using it with your client if that is appropriate. So please be careful to stay within your scope of practice. You're not becoming a behavior analyst today. Specifically, what you're going to learn today is called task analysis. Task analysis, which is based on the principles of ABA, specifically behavior therapy. And you'll be using task analysis as you provide kind of the overall service of TBS to teach your clients a new skill. So that is our intention for today. So what is ABA? I'm going to give you the broad definition, and then we're going to break it down into little bite-sized chunks. So ABA's definition is that it is the application of the principles of behavior to socially significant issues to produce meaningful and measurable change. So let's break that down even further so you understand each part of that definition, because I really feel like each part is important by itself, and it kind of explains what really ABA is, so you really understand what it is, the ABA is, and kind of why you're doing what you're doing if you are to do a task analysis. So the first part of that definition is that we are using principles of behavior regarding socially significant issues. So what that means is socially significant is we're teaching skills that are important to our client. That means that we need to know their needs. We need to know what is important to them. So consider what would improve their life if they were doing more of it or doing less of it, and then help them figure out how they can do exactly that. And I really love this example because it really simplifies it. And this is really what I think ABA can be. So for example, if a client takes 2 15-minute walks every week and finds that those 2 15-minute walks help them decrease anxiety, can we help them take 3 15-minute walks and decrease their anxiety even more? So that's helpful to them. Can we help them do more of it? The opposite could also be true. If they're drinking a 6-pack of beer 3 nights a week, feeling depressed the next morning, could we help them to drink that 6-pack of beer 2 nights a week? So to do that behavior less. So meaningful and measurable. I can count the number of weeks, I can count the number of walks that they're taking. I can count the number of beers that they're drinking. So that is what we mean by meaningful and measurable. So you can see it's very scientific. We're counting things, we're measuring things, but there is an element of it being important to the client. It matters to the client what it is that we're working on. So there is that human element to it. So by using those scientific methods, ABA has provided a way for people to understand human behavior and also sort of the impact of our environment on behavior. So ABA is based on behavioral theory, which tries to explain why people do what they do based on what can be seen and heard. So very objective information, things that can be counted, things that can be measured, things that can be observed. So let's get some good definitions of what that means. A behavior is everything we do. Like I said, observable, measurable. Sometimes people think behavior is a state of being. Sometimes people may describe irritated and bored and hungry, things like that. Those are not really behaviors. Those are kind of internal states of being. If we're really describing a behavior, it's something we can see, it's something we can measure, it's something we can count. So in the interest of time, I'm just going to have you guys either unmute or if you would like to put it in the chat, let me know which of these listed on the screen you think are actual behaviors. And I'll go ahead and read them. Hungry, throwing a ball, compliant, giving a high five, loud, inappropriate, depressed, eating cookies, aggressive, and driving a car. So remember, the definition is we can see it, we can count it, we can measure it. Which of those would you say are behaviors?
Oh, you put throwing a ball? I was gonna say depressed, aggressive, and being compliant is a behavior.
Okay, let's see what some other people say. Oh, we got some in the chat. People in the chat are saying eating cookies, throwing a ball, giving a high five, and inappropriate. Somebody else said aggressive. Somebody else said inappropriate and aggressive. Cassie, I think, underlined throwing a ball. Somebody else circled eating cookies. Somebody else circled giving a high five. All right, we'll give just a minute or two more for this because we have a variety of answers. Compliant, driving a car.
I circled throwing a ball, giving a high five, and eating cookies. It was actually a lot harder on my mouse than I thought it was going to be.
Okay. All right. Oh, one more. Okay, let's get the last one in the chat and then we'll close it. Last person says eating cookies, giving a high five, throwing a ball, and driving. Okay. So the ones that are actual behaviors from the list here are throwing a ball, giving a high five, eating cookies, and driving a car. Because we can count how many times somebody has thrown a ball. We can count how many times somebody has given a high five. We could measure or count how many cookies somebody has eaten, and driving a car. We could also measure maybe how far somebody has driven a car, for example. The other ones are internal. I can't really tell by looking at you if you're hungry. Others are kind of opinions. One person may think you're being compliant, somebody else may have a different opinion. And then others may also depend on the environment. For example, loud may depend on where you are. It may be acceptable by some people to be loud in a concert. Maybe you're at a rock concert and that's acceptable to be loud. But if you're in the library and you're being loud and you're speaking loudly, that may not be acceptable. So the ones that you can count and measure and observe and see are the ones that are considered to be behaviors. So why are we getting specific? Why are we wanting to be sure that we're defining it this way? Oh, let me see if I can clear my screen. Clear all drawings. There we go. So why is it important for us to be specific? The reason we want to be specific is because we want to give a good idea to the client what they're working towards. So goals that state, George will be more appropriate or Mary will be less aggressive, do not give Mary or George an idea of what they are working towards. They may not know what that means, or it may mean one thing to one staff, for example, and it may mean something else to the next staff. They may be getting, conflicting information. So you want to be clear on what it is that we are working towards here. get out of that. Context matters, like I just said, when you're talking about a person's behavior, where they are when they are displaying those behaviors makes a difference, because behavior itself is neither good nor bad. It is neutral. And let me give you my favorite example of how behavior is neutral. My best example of this is hitting a baby is considered abuse. However, if the situation is that the baby is choking, that is not considered abuse. That could be life-saving. So you see how the situation determines the value that we put on a particular behavior. So it could be life-saving to hit an infant on the back if they are choking. If choking is not the situation, it is considered to be abuse. So behavior does not have a value really until we give it one. So you might want to actually get out your phone and take a picture of these terms to be used later on as we talk about positive, negative, reinforcement, punishment, because it can sometimes get confusing real quick. And I even myself sometimes get confused as we talk about these terms.
Will this be sent to us? I'm sorry, because my phone just got cracked. I'm waiting on the new one to come in. Okay.
Yeah, no, you'll get the the PDF of the PowerPoint at the end. I'm just saying for later
Yeah, because
on.
my camera's not working either.
Okay.
Yeah,
You'll get the PDF later. I'm just saying as we talk about it here in a couple of minutes, but yeah, you'll get the PDF here after class. So just to kind of get on the same page for some terms here in a minute, positive means the addition of, negative means the subtraction or removal of, reinforcement is strengthening or increasing the frequency of a behavior, and punishment is weakening or decreasing the frequency of a behavior. So we'll explain what that means here in a second. Excuse me. So reinforcement versus punishment, at least as far as ABA is concerned, interventions that are based in ABA have the basic goal of increasing or decreasing those specific target behaviors. So like we just talked about measuring them or counting them, we've been specific about the behavior that we are counting or measuring. So for that to happen, the target behaviors need to be either be strengthened so they happen more often, or weakened so they happen less often. So to do that, reinforcement strengthens or increases the frequency, punishment decreases. And I have some examples here that I think help make it clear, because to just explain it in those terms can be confusing, and I often get confused myself, because there are two main types of reinforcement, positive and negative, but both positive and negative reinforcement increase behaviors. They just do so in different ways. So let me give you those examples to make it a little bit more clear what we're talking about. So positive reinforcement tends to be the one that we hear the most about. It's just, for some reason, I think it's the easiest one to do. But when positive reinforcement occurs, what happens is somebody does something, they exhibit a behavior. In this instance, you can see the little boy on the left is washing his hands. We can measure that, we can see it, we can observe it, we can count it. When he does that, he receives a cookie. He likes cookies, he wants cookies. That increases the chances he will wash his hands again. The target behavior here is washing his hands. We want him to wash his hands more. So this is positive reinforcement. We have added to the situation the cookies, hopefully increasing the frequency with which he washes his hands. So that is positive reinforcement. We have added the cookies to the situation, so to speak. Negative reinforcement removes an adverse circumstance or something that is not pleasant, so to speak. So let me give you an example of negative reinforcement. So if people do not like to do homework, that's the adverse of circumstance. If we take that away, when people do their classwork during the school day, the idea is students are more likely to get their schoolwork done during the school day, and then they don't have to do homework. So removing the homework is the negative part of it, reinforcing doing classwork during the day. So hopefully that's a good example of reinforcement, increasing doing schoolwork by taking away the homework at the end of the day. Another example may be more applicable to us as adults that is actually negative reinforcement is when we have a headache, we take 2 ibuprofen. That takes away the pain. we're more likely to take ibuprofen again in the future, the next time we have a headache, because the ibuprofen is associated with removing the pain. Other examples that may apply to us as adults might be leaving earlier in the morning to avoid traffic. That kind of takes away the negative experience of sitting in traffic. Turning off your alarm so you don't have to hear the alarm in the morning. Those are taking away an experience that is unpleasant. That's considered negative reinforcement. So those are positive and negative reinforcements. Punishment, on the other hand, is when a change occurs after a behavior, which reduces the likelihood that the behavior will occur again in the future. So we're trying to get people to stop doing something when it comes to punishment. Just like when we talked about earlier here, there is also positive and negative punishment. Oops, I'm sorry about that. So there's also positive and negative punishment. They also decrease behaviors. They do so in different ways. So here's a good example of positive punishment. We have football players who are late to practice. We want them to stop being late. We want them to be on time. If they are late, they then are made to run laps. The hope is that they will not be late in the future. So that is an example of positive punishment. Adding on running laps, hopefully they will not be late to practice any longer. Another example of negative, an example of negative punishment would be not allowing a high school student to attend prom after getting an F on their report card. So taking that away, the opportunity to go to prom if they received an F on their report card. So it takes away something that was preferred. They wanted to go to prom because they received an F on their report card, the hope being that they would get a better grade in the future. But let's take a look at those 4 examples. The punishment needs to matter to, in this case, the football player, and prom needs to matter to the high school student. If the football player didn't want, or if the football player doesn't mind running laps, and if the high school student didn't want to go to prom in the first place, they're probably going to continue to be late to football practice, and this high school student may continue to get bad grades in school because it doesn't matter to them. So if you remember in the very beginning, the first part of the definition of ABA is that it matters to the person. It is socially significant. So that's why the very first thing that we learned about in TBSU is ongoing assessment of needs. We need to know what matters to our clients. We need to know what they need so that we can then base interventions. We can base their treatment plan on what is going on with the client, what they need. So that's also true in ABA. It's socially significant. It matters to the client. So let's just kind of the basics. That's what ABA is based on. We're going to learn one singular intervention that is based on ABA. So I hope you don't think that I'm expecting you to be taking things away from your clients or positively reinforcing them with cookies. That wasn't my intent. I just wanted to give you a quick kind of ABA 101. So you sort of understood where did it come from? What is it based on? If you are interested in learning more about behavioral theory, or if you're interested in learning more about ABA, I encourage you to learn more about it on your own. That was just a very, very, very quick overview about it. But a specific intervention that is based on ABA is called task analysis. And that is what we are going to learn about today. And this is something that may be helpful to you in your working with your clients that is based on ABA. And the definition of task analysis is it is the process of breaking a skill down into smaller, more manageable components. Now, the example we're going to use throughout today just happens to be vacuuming. Now, your client may not be involved in the vacuuming where they live, so you may be actually breaking down a different skill for your client, but just for our demonstration purposes today, we're going to use vacuuming. You may be using getting dressed, hand washing, hygiene tasks. Just depends on what your client needs and what they're working on for your clients. Once that task analysis is complete, once you have broken down the steps, That's what we then use to teach a skill that may be too challenging to teach all at once. It may be too overwhelming to teach the entire skill of vacuuming. So instead, we break it up into smaller kind of bite-sized pieces. And then staff or TBS or whoever this person is teaches those individual skills one by one. Along the way, using reinforcements for desired behaviors. And that could just be your verbal praise. Other times it's other types of reinforcements. It just depends on the client and depends on their situation. So please consult with your team as far as what would be appropriate as a reinforcer. Oftentimes, once we have verbally reinforced the client, just completing the task itself becomes a reinforcer. They become proud of having completed that task on their own. They feel good about themselves. They feel a sense of accomplishment. You know, their self-esteem has increased, and just doing the task itself becomes reinforcing. So this is one of the handouts. I'm just going to summarize it for you. This is handout 3.1. I'll just bring it up so you know what it looks like. It's just the different steps of creating a task analysis. We put it into the PowerPoint form just so it's easier to understand. I'll just kind of break it down also with some pictures so you can see what it is that we're talking about. So the first step is to just identify that target skill that you want to teach the client. And I know that sounds kind of basic. It might sound kind of easy. You want it to be not too big, and you also want it to be not too small. And that's why I picked this picture of Goldilocks. You know how Goldilocks says, you know, this porridge is too hot. This porridge is too cold. This porridge is just right. You want the size of that first target skill to be just the right size. And we'll talk about how to choose just the right size of skill in the next couple slides. That target skill, though, should be a series of distinct specific steps. So let's talk about what that means here. So step 2, what we mean by making that bite size or making that just right amount of information is really setting your client and yourself up for success. So what you want to take into consideration is, what does the client already know? We don't want to teach them things that they already know, first of all. And then we also don't want to overwhelm them with too much information. That's part of it. The other part of it is, do they have just the things? Do they have the materials needed to do this task? So just as an example, if we are going to be working on doing the dishes, do they have dish soap? Do they have a sponge? You know, do they have towels? Do they have a dish rack? You know, it's not going to be very successful if we try to teach them how to do the dishes if they don't have any of those items necessary to do the dishes. Also, things to consider: if they already know how to wash plates, how to wash cups, how to wash silverware, that's amazing. Let's positively reinforce what they know how to do and take those skills and then extrapolate it to maybe scrubbing pots. So that's what we mean by identifying what they already know and then taking that information and then teaching a new part of the skill. So what items do we need to have on hand to teach the skill, and then identify what they already know and then apply that to a different area of the skill. Another part of task analysis is breaking that skill down into smaller steps so the learner can successfully demonstrate the skill by following those steps. And I love this picture here. It says, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. It's really kind of the approach to just, first of all, making the task analysis. A big part of making the task analysis is just, how much information do I put in each step? How much, maybe even of a picture, do I include as we're making this task analysis? How much should I put in words? How much should I put into a picture? So part of this may be you doing the skill. Part of this may be having a coworker try out the steps and say, oh, this is too much information, or maybe this is not enough information. So do the skill yourself. Maybe try it out with a coworker before you actually show the client how to complete the skill. So that's maybe part of it along the way, is you doing it, having other people test it out before you bring it to the client. So yes, let's use the example of setting the table. As far as getting the right amount of information for each step. And this is what works for one particular client. Put down the placemat. place the large plate in the center of the placemat. Put the small plate in the upper left-hand side of the placemat. Put the butter knife on the small plate. Place the napkin to the left of the large plate. Now, for this particular client, this is enough information for them. Other clients may need a picture. Other clients may need what color is the placemat. Other clients may need more information about where is this going to go. Other clients may need directions about how we're going to fold the napkin, for example. But for this particular client, this was the right bite size information for each step. You got to know your client. You got to know what is too much. You got to know what is not enough. So this is just one example of what one task analysis may look like. So step 4 is confirm that those steps along the way are represented accurately and completely. So again, have another staff or somebody else follow the steps exactly as they are written. So do it exactly as it is, either with the pictures or the written directions. You can use written directions. You can also use pictures. You can use a combination of both. And if you need to go back and revise it, that is perfectly okay. You may find I don't have enough information, or you may find I have too much, or I need to break this direction down further. It's too much in one step. So you got to try it out yourself. You may need to have other people try it out. Other things to consider along the way are people's learning style. Use your professional judgment. Use what you've gathered. Use what you know about the client through assessing their needs as far as what is the most appropriate strategy to teach. Are they more visual? Do they need to hear the directions? Do they need to see somebody else do it? Do they need to watch a video of it? What would be the best way for the client to learn this particular skill? We do want to honor their unique strength, needs, abilities, and preferences. Always, there's many different types of learning styles. We'll learn about different learning styles in Series 1, and then we also learn about learning styles in Series 2. So along the way, be thinking of your client's unique needs, including their learning styles. So here are some examples of what are some task analysis that have actually been used by clients. Remember I said we were going to use vacuuming. We're going to come back to vacuuming here in a second. But in the binder there is grocery shopping, and it is all words. And then we have vacuuming, all pictures. So let me bring up the full page of those so you can see some real life task analysis. So this was enough for one client. This worked for a client just to have words. What they need, enough information for each step to go grocery shopping. Get their cart. Apparently there's a separate shopping list. Get the items on the shopping list, wait in line, bring groceries to the vehicle, return the cart or basket. So for one specific client, this was enough information. And this is considered a task analysis for that client. Another option is pictures. Yep. Oh, maybe it's not in here. Go back to the PowerPoint. So here's another one with just all pictures. So where do you plug in the vacuum? Where do you go to turn it on? Which room are you vacuuming? Even vacuuming in the closet. So this one is all pictures. So again, know your client, know how much information they need. Is it pictures? Is it words? Is it a combination of both? Or is it one or the other? Also feel free to use videos or a combination. Know your client. So once you put together your task analysis, once you've implemented it, once you've taught the skill and your client is using it, now comes that reinforcement. Remember, we learned about positive and negative reinforcement. We want to positively reinforce progress. And what we have provided to you is a way to collect data and see, is it working? And I think I even gave you a sneak peek of that. So that's what this is, progress monitoring. So using the setting the table example here, are they putting the plates on the table? Are they putting the cups on the table? The date and how is it going? And then also on the bottom, how much support are they getting? And are we fading support over time? So are they doing it independently? Are we giving verbal prompts? Are we giving gestural prompts? Are we modeling it? Are we giving physical prompts? Were they able to complete it, or was it an incomplete task, or were they just not given an opportunity to complete that task during that day? And then you can see progress over time. I think we have an example of when that is completed. Yeah, so here's one that is completed. So on this date, they were given verbal prompts. On this date, gestural prompts, and then on this date, they were able to put put plates on the table independently. So seeing progress right there over time. So that's a great way to track and reinforce progress. Also, giving feedback to the client on how they are doing is a great way to positively reinforce. So let's pause there and let's talk about, as I've been talking, it may not be vacuuming, it may not be setting the table, it may be something else, but is there a skill that you've thought about as I've been talking that may be appropriate for you to use to break down into smaller steps using task analysis to teach your client? Oh, already in the chat. Oh my goodness. Let's check the chat. Brushing their teeth or washing their hair. Okay.
Yeah, I actually used AI to do like a social story for my clients because I work with IDD. So you were able to generate a guy brushing his teeth and the different tasks to do it.
Okay.
So that really helped them. Some of them, we even laminated them for them. They have them hanging, by their sink at home so they know how to brush their teeth. So
Okay. That's great. Well, I'm going to follow that up with another question. How are you going to link that back to their mental health? Or what is the mental health barrier that keeps them from doing that?
I would say someone with like depressive symptoms, maybe they don't have the motivation to brush their teeth. That's probably how I would link it.
Okay.
Or just the IDD portion of it,
Yeah.
maybe they just were never taught to properly brush their teeth,
Yeah, exactly. Great. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. Anyone else? Anything come to you
I
as
was going
a
to say that
skill?
too. I was going to say ADLs. And
Okay.
my linkage would be the self-motivation, being depressed as well. So, yeah.
Okay. Very good. So I hear a lot of hygiene.
So mine's is gonna be I have a lady who waits on the aides to pick up her room, but she is fully functioning, meaning she can get up and fix her room. And when I go to meet with her, she's always like huffing and puffing because it's taking them forever for them to clean her room. I think I'm going to come up with a list to help her on how she can pick up her own stuff, and I think it'll be good for her anxiety and stuff, just to get up, do it, and it'll make her feel like she's empowered and accomplished something.
Okay. That's great. I love that. Anyone else? What skill might you use task analysis for? Especially clients who maybe are just overwhelmed, especially when you're depressed, they may have the knowledge, they may know, oh, I know what it takes to, declutter my room, or, I know what it takes to, to do, maybe they have the knowledge, but it's just being so overwhelmed with the depression or being so debilitated by anxiety symptoms that maybe it's not the knowledge, it's just being really debilitated by the symptoms. And, it's more of just almost like a guide, almost like a roadmap, and normalizing. I realize that you have these symptoms. I realize you have the ability, but you are so overwhelmed with these symptoms. Here is something that can help you accomplish, what you want to accomplish. You want to declutter your room. You want to have some order in your life. Let's do this together, step by step, as a way to sort of overcome the symptoms that you're experiencing. Have a sense of accomplishment, but then also have an environment that helps you to feel better, helps you to have some clarity in your life. That's kind of how I see it. A couple different ways to see it. Okay, we got some comments in the chat. Let's see. Valerie says, one of my clients recently lost her husband, got possession of his stuff. Ugh. Okay. Probably going to use task analysis to help break down her going through his things. Yes. Yeah. That's a great way to tack it, because I'm sure that's a very overwhelming emotional thing to do. So that's kind of a way to still do it, get it done, and maybe remove yourself a little bit from that process. Okay. Stormy, do they struggle with anxiety? A list of things they can do to implement their coping skills. Okay, I like that, Stormy. India. Okay, a few examples would be good for LTC residents. Okay.
So
Sure.
like I have one client and she has dementia and she struggles like flipping back into like thinking people in the LTC are talking about her husband when there's just another man there that has the same name. I think, you know, one day she swore that he was tricking her, and he really wasn't dead. So like we just had to create like this list of like and like we laminated it and things
Oh, did we lose someone?
like that. And she, you know, when she realized, and the staff is really helpful because when she starts doing that, this is how I'm feeling. And then we go through the steps of what she's supposed to do, whether it's star breathing, depending on what paper they give her, and the steps, even if it's just the first line is hold your breath for 4 seconds. And then the second line she reads is, you know, breathe out for 4 seconds. So even just following that small task list helps
Okay.
her at least come back down.
Okay. Thank you, Stormy. Okay, I want to address India. India is struggling to think of a task for her clients in a skilled nursing. Staff do everything for them from brushing their teeth to cleaning their rooms. Any suggestions for India?
Talk to the staff. Let the staff know that you are working with them on a certain task, and if they could help you by allowing them to do it. And that's how I have found the easiest is if you talk to the staff, they're really willing to help you as much as possible.
I'm also wondering if pictures, I mean, I think pictures maybe would be better versus a whole list of directions.
Yeah, so most
yeah.
of my people, the reason why staff do everything is because, like, physically and cognitively, there's some huge barriers there that, I mean, they're just not going to be fixed. Like, they don't have use of their hands, they don't have mobility. So, like, some of this stuff, I mean, it really is a lot of CBT skills for almost all of my clients. Like, I don't have anybody that walks independently in any way, shape, or form. So, and I think every one of my clients are diagnosed with dementia too. So I'm really struggling to, I mean, they don't even make phone calls on their own. Think of something that they can actually use.
Okay.
Have you ever tried the memory books with them? Do you even know what I'm talking about?
Like what memory books? Because there are a
So
lot of different memory books.
there's memory books that you can get. I have one. It's actually from the 60s, so I'll show it to my Alzheimer's unit. And it just has like a bunch of different pictures and stuff from the 60s, and then they're use it to recall memory. So it would show old cars, and they're talking about, yeah, my brother used to have a car like that. But you could even use that as a task analysis because they're looking at the pictures, they're recalling a memory. But they're actually really cool books to get, and they work really good with people that have, especially your Alzheimer's dementia, because you can get a lot of information out of them because once they see that picture, they recall them.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I don't have problems with is getting them to talk about things that happened when they were younger. I mean, they recall all of that stuff just fine, but staff still have to brush their teeth in the morning.
Okay. Well, maybe for you, maybe we're more on the third question for you, and it's involving other
Yeah.
staff. Maybe your note this week is more of a coordination with staff
Okay.
to see if it's appropriate. And it might not be, and that's okay. So maybe you just start out with, contacting, I don't know if it would be the social worker there or somebody else there, kind of explain what it is. Is this appropriate for XYZ client? Run it by them. If not, that's okay. You demonstrate that you understand what task analysis is. At least you attempted it, you tried it. If it really is not appropriate for anybody in your caseload, that would be fine. But there was the attempt made, you demonstrated that you understood it. I would accept that, and that would be okay. But you tried to involve other staff in it at least. And who knows, maybe it would be appropriate in some way. And they maybe have an idea that you haven't thought of. So I don't know. You really don't know until you ask and maybe see.
Yeah, I
if
have
there's something else
one
that we haven't thought of.
client that I was thinking about earlier this week. We were really struggling about doing a task analysis and working on that with her phone because she just got a new cell phone.
Mhm.
But because we're having to challenge some of her really negative thoughts, and she's very angry with everybody, and we're challenging some of that, she's probably not in the space at this point to work on something like that.
Okay. Well, in your unique situation, my recommendation is reach out to other staff and to see about the possibility, and then kind of go from there. Okay. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you guys sharing. Let's get into some documentation and then we'll wrap up. So as always, we have our example note. What your note will look like this week is your intervention will be skill building. Your specific coping skill will be task analysis. Really, the idea is they're overwhelmed. Let's break it down. I forget who gave the example of, it's overwhelming to go through my husband who passed away, all of his belongings. I need to do it. How am I going to cope through it? Let's break it down and use a task analysis, for example. How might it look in a note? This is just one example, and I want to get your feedback about it and see if you might do it differently. But just as an example, going back to Sally, her session looked like this. She participated, identified needs, and identified symptoms. Sally demonstrated taking out the garbage for this TBS and showed how she checks food for expiration date. Sally stated, quote, "I feel proud to keep my kitchen clean by taking out the trash and throwing things away." When asked about the dirty dishes in the sink, Sally stated, quote, "Sometimes I don't have the energy at the end of the day to do my dishes. I also don't know how to scrub those big pots and pans. I don't think I have the right brush or sponge for that, so I just let it sit in the sink. It makes me anxious to know there's work to do, though." So I just wanted to get your guys' feedback. Would you add anything to make this show more medical necessity, or what do you think is showing medical necessity here? What are your pros and cons about this note?
Sally stated another issue that she have, so that could be, I will add to it as far as like a homework or another task that they could work on is showing her probably how to clean or scrub the dishes and see if she got the right brush.
Okay, so kind of setting her up for success, having what she needs. Okay. Would anybody add anything, or what do you think about this showing medical necessity? Do you think as is it shows medical necessity?
I would build up on the I don't have the energy. You could tie that into if she has a depressive disorder or something like that.
Okay. Okay, so maybe it needs a little bit more. What does that mean? I don't have the energy. Is there a diagnosis there? What's going on with that? Okay. Oh, got something in the chat. What's missing? Could be improved by adding the exact steps. Yes, the client is learning. Since task analysis is about breaking the task into smaller parts, I agree. Needs to show what staff did to help, like giving ideas or modeling, clearly connect the task to the client's mental health. Yeah, it doesn't mention really the client's response to a task analysis. India says use a chart. Okay, that's a good suggestion. I like that. Yeah, okay, very good. Yeah, this could just be expanded upon in general. a little bit more. I think a little bit more is what you're all saying. Just a little bit more detail, a little bit more information is needed. Very good. I would agree. Here's the homework. Let me know what you think about this. The plan is Sally agreed to learn to wash pots and pans during future sessions to be scheduled in the morning when Sally notes she has the most energy. TBS will coordinate with staff to support Sally to budget for and purchase appropriate dish soap and scrubbing pads to wash pots and pans in future session. What do you think about the plan? Would you add anything, or would you say it maybe a little differently?
I would at least tie in that like she gets anxious if there's work to be done, or like address the anxiety, because that's
Yes. Okay, I agree. Yeah, we don't really have a mention of decreasing symptoms or addressing symptoms. I agree. Okay, very good. Very good. Okay, we just have a couple minutes left. Any last questions? I think we kind of covered this, but anybody need any last brainstorming? If you're unsure how you will use task analysis with a client, or if you don't think it's appropriate, how might you coordinate with a staff to find out how you could use task analysis with a client? I don't want you doing it if it's not appropriate, but you may need to coordinate, contact staff, work with staff to plan how it could be appropriate to use it with a client. So either doing it with the client or working to find out how to do it with the client. Anybody need any last minute brainstorming or support how to do that? Okay. If not, that's what I have for you today. I'll stay here for a few minutes. If you want to talk one-on-one, I'll be here for a couple minutes if you'd like to do that. Otherwise, after this is over, I'll send you the link to the video. I'll send you the PDF of the PowerPoint, and you should have probably at 5 o'clock on the dot receive the link for the quiz from Letitia. She set that up ahead of time for that to go out automatically. So I hope you guys have a good week, and I will see you again next week as well.
All right. Thank you, Kimberly.
All right. Thank you guys. Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.